Okay. Mastermind with Neil Schwartz and our special guest, John Harr. John, welcome to the organization. Thanks for your time today. Really good stuff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil. It's nice to be here. Thanks for asking.
So we're going to do something slightly different today. I'm always looking for another way to get my message across, okay? And John and I have been friends, mastermind buddies, role play buddies, et cetera, for going on 35, 40 years now, John?
Yeah, a long time, Neil. Neither one of us look like we did when we started.
No, that's for sure. I am definitely shorter. All right, good stuff. We met at Mike Ferry and been there a long time. And John's a very Mike Ferry broker. In fact, if Mike Ferry were to open a real estate office, I always say to John, it would look like John's office, okay? You know, we all call ourselves Mike Ferry companies, et cetera, but I think he has really honed it down in quite a way. And the reason that's the feature here, the benefit is that when you use the system and you either teach the system, which is what we've been doing for years and years, or you're an agent learning the system, if you're around like-minded people, that was a big message that we got from Mike this last few days. Big message. Be around like-minded people that are doing similar things. Find a system that works and work the system, and then have some accountability. The sky is no longer the limit. It's pretty cool stuff. So first of all, let me ask John to do a little Reader's Digest version of his years in the business, where his company works, where his agents do business, maybe the size of the organization. John, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, we're not a big company. We're probably around 60 agents, and we fluctuate between 60 and say 80. We're on our way back to 80. We had some things that took my attention away with some family health problems and whatever, and so we dropped a little, but we're back up. We're doing well that way. We're in Utah, and we've had the real estate company here for 47 years. So I don't know for the longest real estate company in business in our area, but if we're not, we're one of the top two or three. So, and we just pretty simple company. We just think that you should go to work and make calls and run it like a business, and that's who we hire, those kinds of agents, and it's worked well for us.
It's worked very well. You have some of the highest producing agents come out of your office, and some still working with you that are doing a couple hundred deals. So I know one's a son-in-law, but that doesn't count, right? Son-in-law that was going to medical school that said, I've quit going to medical school. I'm going to become a real estate agent and get rich.
Yeah. He, I was surprised when he asked me if he could marry my daughter, because I didn't think my daughter was interested. But then, the parents always know last. Anyway, he came and asked me if he could make more money selling real estate than being a doctor. And I said, well, of course, much more, but it's very difficult. And, it'll be just the same as going through medical school. It'll be difficult. Now I think he's averaging around 12 to 13 listings a month, and he doesn't work buyers. And when he came, I just told him, I says, now I can't treat all my agents the way I'm going to treat you, but I'm going to treat you like an employee. I says, so anytime you're not on schedule, I'm going to be all over you. And I says, anytime you're not on script, I'm going to be all over you. I says, you married my daughter, and you're going to have my grandchildren, and they're used to a 7-figure income. So that'll be the minimum standard that we will hold you to. And right now, today, he's actually in Lake Powell right now with my daughter on a vacation on a $3 or $4 million houseboat, and he has currently 21 unsold listings. So while he's gone, he'll probably put 3 or 4 of those under contract. But he's a very good agent. Yeah.
It's very, very good. It's great. It's a great story, and there's a lot of those stories. But John, let's talk about you in business originally. Okay. You were a pretty good agent when you got started in this.
Well, I got started young, so I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I started at 19, so I had no idea what I was doing. And I went to work the first day. I arrived at the brokerage at 7 a.m. in the morning, and it was locked. And all I had ever done was farm work, and so I couldn't believe that people weren't at work already by 7 because on the farm you're there at 6. And so I went in, and the broker was a retired Army colonel, and he said, I don't know. The only reason you're here is because you know someone, but I'm never going to let you come in the office. So don't come in the office. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? He says, go ask someone if they want to buy or sell a house. So I didn't know what I was doing. At 8 o'clock, I went out to a subdivision, started knocking doors, and I knocked doors till 6 o'clock at night. And I did that every day for 2 weeks. And I had 2 people that said they wanted to list their houses. I had no idea how to fill out the form. I had no idea what I was doing. And so for the first few years, it was just, like a lot of people, do whatever you can to make enough money to pay the bills. And, after 6 or 7 years, I figured out that I no wanted to work buyers, that all I wanted to work was listings. And so after about 7 or 8 years, I never worked another buyer. My business was 100% listing driven.
That's fantastic. But up to this time, certainly it wasn't even 7 years. I think it was more like 15. You'd never even met Mike Ferry or heard his name.
No, I didn't know who he was. It was around, around 12 or 13 years into the business. I attended a franchise meeting that they had that Mike was speaking at, and I listened to him, and I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is my guy. I mean, he talked about listings, and I was then at that point. That's where I was listings. I didn't have any scripts or didn't know what I was doing, but that's what I was doing, was just listings. And so I went to another retreat, another one, and I met agents that were doing way more than I was doing. And so it didn't take very long for me to decide to sign up for coaching and get some help.
So at the time, you were doing 50, 60 deals when you met Mike.
Yes.
And the agent you met after a couple of events was Karen Bernardi, right?
Yeah, Karen. And I was at a meeting really thinking that I was just about to start taking over running the company. And so I thought I was really good, at 50 or 60 deals. And I thought, I don't know why I'm going to this meeting. I'm probably going to be the highest producer in the room, a kind of a male eagle thing of a 20-something-year-old person.
None of us have ever experienced that.
Right. So Karen got up and said she was doing 500 deals a year, and I about died. I'd never heard of anything like that. And so immediately at the break, I went up to talk to her, and she talked about this coaching thing and these scripts. And I really didn't believe her. I didn't believe that she was really doing it. And so I talked to all of her staff, and then she said to me, if you're serious, she says, go to Chicago and learn how to do the scripts as a productivity school. So the next week I got on a plane and went to a productivity school, and I met Deb Sizix. Is that her name, Deb?
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to her, and the first thing I noticed was all the diamonds on her fingers were the size of Frisbees. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me, Well, Deb was also doing 500 deals a year. And of course, her and Karen were good friends, and I had a million questions. And Deb said to me, hey, look, I don't mind answering your questions, but you're not in coaching. So if you want me to talk to you, go get a coach. So I just went back and signed up and came back and had about 1,000 more questions for her.
So you're pretty coachable.
Well, I couldn't believe I was getting my butt kicked so bad by people I'd never met. I'd never even heard of these kinds of numbers before. And so, yeah, I'm competitive. And I thought, well, this isn't right. They shouldn't be able to outproduce me that far. But yes, I wanted to talk to Deb. She went to lunch with me too. I asked her, can we go to lunch? And I had a million questions. Kind of like when I met you, Neil, I had a million questions for you too. So it was great for me.
No, it's all good. We've been asking questions back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now you slowed down on selling and decided to help people, agents do well, correct?
Yeah. So there were some things that happened in the office, and Dad's health was getting bad, and he knew he wasn't going to run the company anymore, and asked me if I'd run it. And I told him no. I said, just shut it down. I said, I don't want anything to do with agents. And he kept at me for 2 years, kept closing me and kept closing me and kept closing me. He says, you can do anything you want. And I said, well, I like this Mike Ferry. I says, if I can run the office like a Mike Ferry thing, I says, I'll slow my real estate sales down and I'll just coach agents. And so that's what happened. And the office changed dramatically, of course, because we changed everything we were doing.
So when you say that, your dad's it was your dad's company at that time, right?
Yeah, he started it. Yeah, he quit a job. He was at a job in a computer firm. He had 20 years experience, and he went home one day and said, I'm going to quit my job. And I thought, wow, that's strange. We've got 6 kids and you're going to quit your job. And I said, what would you do that for? And he said, well, I've looked at my goals. He says, I can't reach my goals and stay at my job. And I said, well, what are your goals? And he said, well, I have a certain amount of money. I want to have passive income by the time I'm 55, and I want to buy a mountain. And I said, what are you talking about? And he says, well, he says, I've done the numbers and I can't retire at 55. And he says, I want to be able to do that. And he says, so I'm just going to do that. So he started. So when he got into real estate, when he opened the company, I had 1 year of college, and I probably have 4 or 5 college professors tell me you do not belong in school. And so I quit. When my year was finished, I just said, that's it. I'm going into real estate. So dad opened the company, and I joined the company the day he opened the company, and we both started out together.
Wow. I don't know if I knew that part of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Dad was
Good
something
for
else.
you.
Yeah.
And then when you took over a couple of years later?
About 6 or 7 years later. Yeah. I'd been selling real estate for about 7 or 8 years, and then some things started changing. And so So then, and, I mean, it took him a few years to convince me to do that. And I was still pretty young. So I was running the company, but I wasn't using Mike Ferry stuff because I hadn't met him yet.
Got it. Okay. So what are some of the changes that you made when you started running the company?
Well, pretty much we weren't doing any Mike Ferry stuff, and I wasn't going to run the company. I had no interest in having a company where everybody closed 1 or 2 deals. I had no interest in that at all. So I said, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it and help the agents know what I thought, well, I can teach them what I did, because I was pretty serious about it. But then when I met Mike, I said, well, this is simple. I'm just going to follow his program. So script practice every morning. I coach every agent every day for 30 minutes, every agent every week for 30 minutes. They track all their numbers for me. They bring them in. Every agent sends me a recording of either prospecting, live prospecting that they did, or a live listing presentation that they did. So we sit down and we listen to their recording in coaching. We only listen about 5 minutes. We go over their numbers, make a plan for the following week. And those are the fundamentals that we follow for these agents to make really good incomes.
So everybody jumps in and says, I'll do it.
Oh, everybody says you're going to do it. Oh, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. If you could hear my interview before someone comes in, I said, no, listen, don't come here. If you're just trying to do 4 or 5 or 6 deals, don't come here, because you don't want me, and we will be miserable together. If you want to do 30 deals or 100 or 200, then come here, because I can help you. And so they all, oh, no, I'll do everything you say. And of course, I don't have to tell you, because you do that. But, a percentage don't and a percentage do. And the ones that don't, they don't last very long. They're usually here anywhere from, 30 to 60 days, and then they're gone.
And they ask you, and you ask them why they're not doing it, and they say they thought you were kidding.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons people don't do it, but I really believe that this, I heard you talk a little bit about environment. I really think their environment has a lot to do with it. I think, in our market, if you're making 100,000 a year, in our where we live, that's pretty good income. And so, we have to work really hard on their environments, but a lot of people didn't learn to work when they were younger. And a lot of people think 100,000 is a lot of money. And so, those people don't generally follow the program. If we can get someone to understand that, you're never going to retire with any money unless you're making 500,000 a year. If we can get them to understand that, then we can get them to follow the program.
Got it. So you have a guarantee in your company you've had it for years, and it's something that I would love to be able to personally implement, but I have the same fears as anybody else that, geez, how am I going to be able to track this and who's going to do it? But you want to share what your guarantee is?
Yeah, I think if I were a large company, I'd probably have the same reservations you have, Neil, but I'm a small company. So for me to track 80 agents isn't a big problem. I interviewed agent after agent after agent, and they all said, boy, if I could be guaranteed an income, I would, I would come to work. I would do it, but it scares me. And I heard that for years, and I thought, well, of course you can guarantee someone an income. And so I said, you know what I'll do? I'll just make a contract that this is a schedule you follow, and if you follow the schedule, I guarantee you 100,000 a year your first year. And all the brokers, they had come aparts. They couldn't. It's lying. And I said, and if you've been here for 3 years and you followed my $100,000 program, I will guarantee you 500,000 income in 5 years. And I said, here's how it works. I will sign a contract with you, and if you don't make $100,000 the first year, I'll write you a check for the difference. And if you've been here 3 years and you're following the program, I'll sign another contract with you. If you don't make 500,000 in 5 years, I will pay you the difference. So it's a contract, just has a schedule, and just says follow the schedule. And everyone's, oh yeah, I'll follow the schedule. We have had 100% of the people that have signed it that have followed the schedule. 100% have made it. Because I didn't write a $100,000 program, I wrote a $200,000 program. So the very worst anyone's ever done is $145,000 on the $100,000 guarantee the first year, and average probably somewhere between 180 to 220 the first year for the agents that sign it and follow the program. So yeah, we don't have any problems with it. We use it all the time. Agents sign it all the time. Some agents get in the middle of it and go, gosh, I just don't think I want to work that hard, which okay, then we just won't, tear up the contract.
Got it. So essentially, this is where I want to get to. Essentially, what you're using is pretty much the Mike Ferry system and I want to say on steroids of accountability, correct?
There's a ton of accountability. I can't guarantee you 100,000 if you're not going to follow a program, right? But there's no problem. I mean, even you can't even believe how some of the agents that make 100 grand. I mean, when they walk in, there's no chance. But all they do is follow the program, and it's just not. The first 90 days, it looks like they're never going to hit it. Because the first 90 days they're learning is just getting up to speed and producing some momentum. But after 90 days, they're taking. They're putting 3 or 4 deals under contract. They're taking 2 or 3 listings. And so, it's not difficult. I mean, it's like if someone came to you and they were 700 pounds overweight and they said, can you guarantee I'll lose 5 pounds in the next the 6 months? And you go, yeah. And you guarantee it? Well, yeah. And that's what $100,000 income is like losing 5 pounds when you're 700 pounds. It's not complicated. It's just follow the program.
There's a lot of silence out there right now.
You ought to hear the brokers in my area. There's no silence from them.
Yeah.
There's silence because that's not what we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
See, you see when I get with John, we get to talk about this stuff. It's about learning the scripts, and John makes sure on a daily basis that you're learning the scripts and that you record your in fact, what's your rule in the morning? You have to record the role play, correct?
Yeah, if you come to role play, we have a couple rules on role play. If you don't have them memorized, you can't role play. So we're not going to get up and watch you read them. And then if you do role play, most of them want to role play with me, so I will role play with them, but they have to record it and then they have to go back and critique it. So how did it go? And so, I don't know how you're going to get better without recording. I just don't know how that, I don't know anybody that performs in anything at any level that doesn't record. And so, it's free, doesn't cost anything, but there are times when some of the agents bring their recordings in. I said, it might help you if you went into a dark closet and turned off all the lights and drank a bottle of wine before you listen to this. I mean, some of them are awful, but it
That's
doesn't
right.
matter.
And almost no one in your area drinks wine.
Right. So it's a problem. But they get used to it. I mean, you get used to it. You get used to it, and boy, you hear so many things that you don't know that you're not doing, and it's kind of like I tell people all the time, if you've ever played a sport, you can watch someone perform quickly and you can determine if they know what they're doing or not. And I used to play basketball, and I watched someone shoot a basketball, and I only need to watch them shoot it once, and I can tell if they know or not. And so this recording yourself, why would you continue to get on the phone and let your numbers not produce where they should just because you're afraid to listen to yourself? It's illogical. And so, when they come in, I've listened to probably 7 or 8 recordings today, and I'll listen to 3 or 4 more after we're through. And we're a lot of times we're repeating the same thing we repeated a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but slowly they're getting better.
And they just continue the process every day, every week, every month, every day, every week, every month, so that at the end of the year they can earn $100,000+ on the same system that we've been working on and learning for years.
Yeah. So, I push really hard fundamentals. I don't know anybody who's at the top of their game that's not fundamentally sound. And I don't know anyone at the bottom of their game that's fundamentally sound. So my very, very highest producers are here at 7 a.m. practicing scripts, and they're still sending me recordings because they believe that, their favorite sports person or, favorite actor or singer or whatever, that they believe that they're still working on those things. So they work on them too. And it's hard because that's kind of boring to hear the same thing over and over again.
Got it. Absolutely. For sure. Questions on anything John's been talking about so far?
Neil.
Go ahead, Michael.
So does that mean that we had to be grinding? Is that what you mean?
Yes, grinding. Yes, that's what we do. We grind.
But John, we talked about that a lot. And everyone we know that makes what we would call serious money is always, quote unquote, grinding their entire career, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing I don't get is why we're trying. I think we just live in a society that wants a shortcut or instant gratification, and there just isn't any. And I think it's a little easier for my agents because I'm willing to do what I'm asking them to do. So, I'm up at 3 a.m. every morning. I'm at the gym. I read hundreds and hundreds of books. They watch me work on a schedule that is just no breaks at all. That's what I do all day. But that's what you do. And so, but if I want to live and have more freedom, I find the more money I have, the more freedom I have. So, tomorrow I'll go to my ranch and spend 3 or 4 days at my ranch and be up in the mountains where there's no cell service. And, then I can come back Monday and start again.
So let's talk about the ranch really quick. Well, go ahead, Josie, ask a question.
Did your father buy the mountain?
Yes, he bought the mountain. That's the ranch I'm talking about. He bought 650 acres up in the pine trees and the Quakies with a creek running through it. And then he built a really nice cabin on it, about a 6,500 square foot cabin. It's beautiful. And that's where I go, where no one can reach me. So I can get my head back in the game, is back in nature. So yes, he bought this mountain, and he bought the mountain. He told me, he says, I don't know why I'm buying the mountain. I think I'm supposed to buy the mountain to do good for people. And so my brother and I run a not-for-profit organization for single moms. And we use the ranch for that.
And your father bought the ranch without Mike Ferry influence?
He'd never met him. But it's funny because, if you've been in the business for a long time, eventually you will gravitate towards what Mike's teaching you because that's what's right. And so Dad was way. I remember coming home from high school, and Dad was just doing this part-time. And I remember him putting and some of you aren't old enough, won't even know what I'm talking about, but a cassette recorder next to the phone so he could hear his own recordings of himself talking. He'd get home at 5 o'clock at night. He'd eat dinner, and then at 6 o'clock, he'd jump on the calls and start making calls from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. And he'd record himself on a cassette recorder. And my brother and I would listen to the recordings he'd make, and we'd make so much fun of him because he sounded so horrible. And, but that to give you an idea of how far ahead of his time he was. He thought it was really good to be listening to himself talk to people on the phone.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Your dad's quite a guy. He was quite a guy.
Yeah, he was.
Very inspirational. You guys never had a helicopter to go to the ranch. You guys always had to drive as a family, or people would come up. But I know there was one time where you weren't sure if he was going to make it, and you got him a helicopter to get him up there.
Yeah. We're sitting in the hospital, and the doctor says, "You've got 48 hours to live." And I'm sitting there with Dad, and I says, "Dad, I'd hate to see you die in a hospital." I says, "Wouldn't you like to go to the ranch and have a hamburger, a ranch hamburger?" And he said, "Well, how in the world would I possibly get to the ranch?" And I said, "All you need to tell me is you want to go to the ranch and get a hamburger. This is at Christmas, actually Christmas Day." They told him he had 48 hours to live. And he said, "Man, I'd love to go to the ranch and get a hamburger." And so I hired a helicopter, and we flew him into the ranch to have we were there for 3 hours, ate a hamburger, and then flew home. It was a $10,000 hamburger, Neil.
My kind of guy.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just think it's amazing. You know, kind of reminds me of this show that's on TV called Yosemite.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I have or not.
Anyway, good stuff. Any other questions for John before we move on here? No one else? Okay. So one of the things, I love this guy to death. I mean, we just have all kinds of great conversations and good stuff. And I work every day to try to emulate what he's doing on a regular daily basis. Could we do this, John? Is it possible for another organization that's not run physically daily by John Harr? Could we really do this?
I guess what do you ask me? You mean have someone else run it without me being the one running it?
Well, let's say look, you're where you are, and you're not moving. You're not moving the mountain.
Right. Yeah.
You're just paying the government to use the mountain now. But we try to work on this every day, and we're dedicated to it. We role play every morning, and we do this and we do that, and we do the scripts and dialogues, et cetera, and we have the classes, but not that many people take advantage of it. Is it possible for us to recreate something like that? And how would we do that? How would that look? If I was willing to do most of what you do most of the time.
I'm not sure I understand the question. I do know this. I know that if you're not surrounded in an environment of people that do this, it's pretty hard to make yourself do it. When I send my agents to the Superstar Retreat, to the production retreat, I tell them the goal is to bring back, I call them souvenirs. I says the goal is to get souvenirs at the Mike Ferry event. I says you're going to hear the same stuff you've heard at our office 1,000 times, because I've been trained and coached by Mike myself. So you're not going to hear anything different. I says, but you need to meet those people. I says you've got to meet those people. You've got to find people that are committed as you are, that will role play with you daily, that will hold you accountable daily, that when you're down, they'll tell you, keep going. When they're down, you tell them to keep going. My highest producers, Cody is the lowest. My son-in-law is the lowest producer in his mastermind group. So they're telling
he's
him
doing how much business?
he'll do about 1.4, 1.5 this year.
Okay.
So he'll do about 100 and probably 110, 115 deals. But in his group, you guys know who's in his group. They're all up on the stage, but they're a bunch of good, really good people. And they're always saying to him, when do you get serious about your nutrition, Cody? You're fat. Cody, when are you gonna get serious and make some real money? Because they're all making, $2.5 and $3 million a year. And so I really believe that your environment has a huge impact on what you believe is possible and what you think is normal for yourself. So, it's hard in a real estate company because you're not going to get the whole company to buy into this,
Right.
So I think you have to surround yourself with those people, kind of make your own environment. And so, this week, all I've been talking about is how many people did you bring back? How many souvenirs did you bring back? What are their names? How many deals are they doing? How long have they been in the business? How many Mike Ferry events have they attended? Because I want them to vet them the same way I vet my agents before they come to me. I don't, because everybody at Mike Ferry events excited. Everyone's, oh yeah, I'm going to practice scripts every day. I'm going to get up at 4:00 in the morning. And as soon as they get back home, they're right back where they began. So then the event didn't do them any good. So if you bring back the souvenirs, which I call them other Mike Ferry agents, and you're in touch with them daily, then there's a chance you're going to go to a different level. And I really think that's a big secret. I think that's a big help for my agents.
So, what was the guy that we interviewed? It's been a while. I don't have his card in front of me. Great agent that was really going to leave the business until he met you.
Oh, it's probably Ethan.
Ethan.
Yeah,
you.
Ethan was an Uber driver, and we had talked to him several times, and he finally he told me, he says, I was thinking of breaking up with my girlfriend because I couldn't provide any money. He says, and I was going to get a different job and leave real estate. And before he did, I said, why don't you come over and talk to me? And he did. And I think his first year, I think he did 22 or 23 deals with me. And this year he's on track to do, I think 40. This is his second year. I think he'll do 45 deals this year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he turned it around. He turned it around quickly, but not magically. It was about doing the activities, correct?
That guy's a grinder, man. He stayed right. I told him, listen, just do what I ask you to do. It's the fundamentals. I says, anybody can do this. I says, just the fundamentals. And he came from a background, which I think is a huge deal. He came from a runner's background, and he used to run 28,800 meters a day for practice. And I about, when he said that, I couldn't get over it. 28 of them a day for practice for his running, because he was a very good runner. And today, every day, he puts a rucksack on with 50 pounds on his back, and every day he rucks 5 miles a day every day. So this guy's a grinder. So, he says, hey, look, I don't have a problem. I'll just do what you tell me to do. So, and he's very teachable. He's like Brian Burnett. I know you've talked to Brian, but Brian came from my office, and I coached Brian for 10 years. And Brian will do 350, 360 deals a year. I don't personally know a Mike Ferry agent more pure than Brian Burnett. But Brian was exactly the same way. He's just a grinder. I got another one coming up. His name's Curtis. And Curtis, his first year this year, should do about 22, 23, 24 deals, somewhere in there. He's on track for, I think, about 24. And he does the same thing. He just follows the program. All of them came because of the 100,000 guarantee.
But so there's another piece to this puzzle. Everybody starts at a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And no one is on a cap, and no one earns over 80%.
Right.
Am I correct, John?
Yeah. I don't have a title company or mortgage company, so I don't have any other sources of income. I have to make it on my agent. So, they're fine with it. They're going to pay me a few $100,000 a year, when they start, and then eventually they'll pay me, like Cody will pay me 250,000 or something this year. But, he's happy. He's $1.2 million, $1.3 million, $1.4 million. And, we're working to get him to 2 million. If I was capped, I could care less what he gets to. I'm being honest,
Please.
Why work that hard? Why would I work that hard? If he gets to make another 600,000 or 700,000 a year and he doesn't have to work anymore. And by the way, Cody only works Monday through Friday. He doesn't work any evenings or no Saturdays, no Sundays, which also Brian Burnett is the same way. Brian Burnett neither one of those guys work any buyers, just listings.
That was great. Great story. Questions for John Harr? Questions
Yes,
for
please.
John? Martin, go ahead.
John, thank you so much. I guess the question is either for Dad or Brian. Did they listen to their calls right after the session right now? Is that how they do it?
Well, they record their script practices in the morning, and then they'll listen to them. But the calls, and they'll get a lot from that. The calls I want them to listen to is once they finish prospecting, I ask them to listen to one call a day. So they listen to a call a day. There's a critique sheet that asks for 13 questions to be critiqued, and they critique themselves every day. One time, it takes about 15 or 20 minutes. And then they send me one call a week of where they thought, what could I have done different to set this appointment or get this signature? And then we'll listen to it together. So if they've done it right, they've listened to at least five live calls that they did on their own, and then one with me.
Is it possible to get a copy of those, what do I call them, instructions over to Robert and Neil so that they can
The 13
share with me?
Yeah, the 13 questions, the 13, you bet, absolutely. I'll send them over to Neil, no problem. It's just a critique sheet. And I know it's tedious, but seriously, when they know they're going to be critiquing themselves in an area, they become much better, much faster. And so the critique is really important. If they just simply listen to the call and they don't critique it, they don't get nearly as much out of it.
Well, clearly from our conversations that you and I have had over the last few years, and clearly what Mike was talking about, I believe I heard at the Superstar Retreat, it's really a large part about accountability. It's getting people that will help hold you accountable on a regular basis for the stuff that we want to do. And if you're not going to do it, then don't say you're going to do it. Just go away. That sound right?
Well, accountability is huge, and I really even hesitate to go into this because then I'll be marked as a kook. But in my office, accountability has to be strong, and it has to be no way out. I say no. We call it no excuse accountability. So I have to be at the gym at 3:00 every morning. If I'm not at the gym, then I owe my accountability partner $1,000. And so it doesn't matter if I'm sicker than a dog. It doesn't, and nothing matters. All I have to do is show up and touch the front door. And if I show up, and I've been throwing up in the parking lot while I'm touching the front door. So there's no excuses. There's so many stories we tell ourselves to get ourselves out of it, So the agents will do some crazy stuff here in the office, and I'm probably not going to go into it because it's probably against the law. But they're serious. When they do that, they're serious, And so it's so simple. If you look at the office and the agents, the ones that have the strongest accountability are making the most money, and the ones that won't hold themselves accountable aren't.
Sounds great. John, a couple people have asked if we could get copies of your contracts and stuff like that. Would you share those with me? Would you be okay with it?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no.
All right,
I share everything I have with everyone, Neil, because no one's going to do it. So, you always say to me, Neil, when I ask you, hey, would you share that with me? You say, sure, John, no problem. By the time you get it and get it implemented, I'll be somewhere else. And
exactly.
So, yeah, same thing.
Exactly. Good stuff. Other questions for John Harr? John Harr Jr.
I have one quick question.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you, John, for coming out here and talking to us. I would like to know, how many calls do you encourage your your newbie agents to make per day?
I think that's a great question, Abigail. I really think it's kind of like going to the gym, right? So if I get someone that's never made a call before, and I say, hey, you need to make 40 calls a day. That's like going to the gym and saying, hey, how long have you been bench pressing? They go, I've never bench pressed. Well, let's go ahead and try to bench press 350 pounds. It's going to crush you, so you have to build a muscle. It's a muscle that you build. So if someone comes in the very beginning, I say, have you ever prospected before you ever called? No, I really haven't. Well, let's start with 10 a day. Now, I can't guarantee you 100,000 a year on 10 a day, but I said, let's start with 10 a day. And they'll go, okay. And then they come back. How did you do? Well, I did it. I wasn't that bad. Okay, let's move it to 15. So just like a bench press, you put on a lot less weight that you can do easily, right? And then you work your way up, because I believe there's a prospecting muscle. And I think people start off, they go to the gym the first day and they're real excited. They got the new sweats and their new gym shoes on, and they work so hard. And the next day they can't get out of bed. And so I think the prospecting muscle is the same thing. So start small. There's a really good book called Mini Habits, and it's one of my favorite books. And it's about 100 pages. And I just love the book. It says, start small. The goal is consistency. And so when you become consistent, a couple things happen. Your self-belief and your self-image goes up. And then also you start believing you can do more. So we use this with the single moms all the time. And I say, set a goal so small that you could not do it. Like what? Like one sit-up a day. One of our moms said, I'm gonna save $1 a day. She'd never had $100 ever in her account. And the first year she started with $1 a day. And by the end of the year, she had $5,000. And we just kept the goal at $1. So, some days she'd find a way to save $5, and some days 10. And then some weeks she'd come and say, you're not going to believe it, but I found a way to save $100 this week. And she saved $5,000 her first year. So I think be process driven, not outcome driven. Outcome driven will wear you out. It's emotional, and process driven is 100%, 100% in your control, and it will make you a superstar. Does that help you, Abigail?
Yes, thank you so much for that.
You bet.
All right, great question. Good stuff. Josie, go ahead.
John, that was so inspirational that you even brought up about your single moms.
Oh, thank
and
you.
starting small. That was really, really good. Are you a Century 21 office?
No, we're independent, but there's just a lot of great offices. If I were going to work for an office, I would work for Neil Schwartz. That's who I'd work for. I mean, he's so good. Neil and I are great friends, but he believes all this stuff. And we're an independent company.
And you'd have to get a Utah license, Josie. And John is horrible on computers, so virtual wouldn't work.
Yeah, it took everything I had just to get on the Zoom call, Neil, today.
I want to say something, Neil.
Armin, go ahead.
John, I like the way you mentioned about working, making people work, but I'm old, as Neil is. And back in the 90s, I knew who Neil was, but I was always afraid of him. And even the early 2000s, because his reputation, which was undeserved in the area, was if you go to Century 21 Masters, you work or you don't go there. And I was always afraid, and I was so foolish that I waited till 2000 and what was it, Neil? 2010.
Something like that, yeah.
Before I finally threw up my hands as a 40-year-old, 40, almost 50, I guess. And I went and interviewed with Neil, but it was the point of his reputation was you work or you go home.
It's a good observation, Armand. That in my market, they tell the agents I tie them to the desk and I beat them every hour. The stuff that's about me is ridiculous. Quite honestly, I have no idea where you are all day unless you're supposed to be meeting with me. I have no idea, but I do know that if I want to really honestly, truthfully help my agents, I've got to be upfront and honest with them. And if they don't want that, then I probably wouldn't be a good match. And I'm not trying to hire hundreds of agents because I can't coach hundreds. So, but I think that's a great point, Armand. There's a lot of people that are intimidated by our company and us, and there's a lot of brokerage that uses us as you don't want to go over there. Those guys are nuts.
Yeah. And when I interviewed with Neil, the first thing I tried to discourage him and myself from even talking to him. I said, I'm not going to do this, and then I'm not going to do that. And Neil goes, well, you got to give a little to get a little. Don't you agree? Yeah. But I was at a point in my life where the maturity didn't allow me to I was ready to work. And when I came, Neil could tell you that I work.
That's great. So good for you, Armand. That's such a great story.
It kind of goes with what you just said, John, about environment. Come to the environment with an attitude that you want to make more, you want to do more with your life, et cetera, you want to buy some investment property. and you're with like-minded people, that's a pretty cool thing. And I notice, when people are around like-minded people, higher producers, people that own rentals. I mean, my conversation with almost every new person that joins the company is, how many rental properties do you have? How many do you want to have? How much passive income? That's a conversation, John, you and I have with that you're doing with your organization. You do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I want to grind, but I don't have to grind because of the moves I've made over the years, buying some property based on the, buy one or one every other year, and then just pay them off as fast as you can, and have the tenant pay them off. What a great life you can have. And I'm a living, breathing proof of that, what you and your family has done. I read the perspective that you sent me. If you want to have your Kelly, I think, is on here, put in there, if anyone wants to make a donation to the John Harr Foundation. I mean, you've been doing this pretty intensely for about 2 years now, right?
Well, this is actually our 5th year, and the group is getting bigger and bigger. I mean, right now I'm spending several $100,000 to expand more room at the ranch so we can accommodate the moms, because the cabin, when we first started, we had a small group, and so the cabin was fine. We have a decent sized cabin with 5 bathrooms, but we had 60 or 70 moms there this time. And so we now haul in a bunch of really, really nice showers and really, really nice bathrooms. And then we put up a bunch of places for them to sleep. We think that we'll end up sometime, we hope that we'll have 200 or 300 moms at a time at the ranch, which would be great. So, the goal is to give back. And like you said, Neil, if we've done a good job of taking care of ourselves in the early stages, then we can help other people later on.
100%. And, this is a conversation that John and his brother and I have, and we still meet every Wednesday supposed to be for role play, but we end up talking about the ranch or the single moms, or, how the hell can we help more people? They're not listening to me. What could I say?
Yeah.
That's like a weekly thing, you guys. We get together and we try to figure out what we can say or do that will get people to take action. John, am I speaking out of school? Isn't that what we do?
No, that's what you do. It's really unusual. The reason you and I are friends, Neil, is because I sensed very quickly that you were genuine about, I want to help other people. You were genuine about it. And that's really, I was brought up that way. I was brought up that we should serve other people. That's how I was raised. And, my dad left an estate that was a fairly large estate, did very well. I feel so bad when I get agents that show up to my office at 60 years old and they haven't started a retirement program.
Nothing.
And so in their 20s, I'm on top of them every single coaching session. I've got 4 or 5 22, 23-year-old agents here that own 4 or 5 properties now. I'm on top of them constantly because I genuinely care whether they have the ability to live a life that's designed by them, and that they have no limits and that they can do more for other people. That's the goal. And I know you have the same thing. That's why we're friends.
No, 100%. 100%. I would rather talk about how to help people than probably anything else that we do.
Yeah.
So, John, so what's the name of the actual name of the
not-for-profit is Single Moms Mindset Development. Is what it's called. Single Moms Mindset Development is and we're just, like I say, we're just getting started, but it's unbelievable what the moms have done. It's incredible. Some of them have lost 70, 80 pounds. Some of them have bought homes. Some of them have got master's degrees now. Some of our single moms are starting to get married, and they're still in the Single Moms program. And we meet every Sunday in mastermind groups of 5. And to be in a mastermind group, of course, there's minimum standards. And, they have to read a book that we've chosen, and then they get together and they discuss the book every Sunday. And if you don't attend, then, you know, we ask you to take a break from the group and come back when you know you can attend consistently. So it's working really well. And it's all we're doing is the same thing we're doing with real estate agents.
Good stuff. Excellent. Unmute yourselves, please. Unmute yourselves. Let's give John Harr a big.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Neil.
John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, one
Thank
of the
you. Thank you.
Really good stuff. Really
Oh, hey-
good. Thank
hey,
you. I mean,
John.
there's a million things we could continue to talk about. Josie?
The book, I had to drop out for a minute. Many Habits by Stephen Guise.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, got it. So, John, one of the things that we do is we're going to take a few minutes now and go around the room. And I asked the question, what did we learn today? I understand, look, you got a million things to do, and I really appreciate your time and your team's time. And I mean, it's your whole organization is just A1. I mean, just the best. And I appreciate all of them if Kelly's still here. John and I get on a call at 7:30 on Wednesday morning, and usually Kelly's running interference trying to get him on Zoom with me. So-
Someone is, yeah.
So anyway, but we're going to talk about what we learned right now. You're welcome to stay with us, or if you need to leave, we certainly understand.
Thanks, Neil. Thank you, everyone. I do have a coaching call with an agent now, so I'll jump off the call. Thank you, everybody. It was nice to meet all of you. And thanks again, Neil.
Thank you, buddy. You be well.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Neil.
Okay, what did we learn today?
I will start, Neil.
How
Okay.
what?
I will start.
I will start. Okay. All
Okay. Now,
right, that's good.
Start small. The secret is consistency. Build up your muscles, which is your monument.
Love it. Good stuff. What else do we learn today?
Stick to the routine and be serious about it so that we can get the money that we want to make.
That is exactly right. Absolutely. Good job. What else do we learn?
I saw a new way of looking at things. He said you will not be able to retire if you don't at least make 500,000. So I have to think higher, think at a higher level, right?
Absolutely. Well, you have a great start, Abigail. You have a really great start. You're actually one of the best agents I've worked with on the subject of buying real estate. So congratulations. And this is just the beginning for you. You could end up with a couple hundred doors before this is over. Good job. Keep it up. Okay, what else did we learn today?
I really like what you said, Neil. Be process driven, not outcome driven.
Exactly. That was a great thought. I wrote that one down
Great
too.
thought.
Yeah.
Neil,
What else
Neil.
did we learn today?
Talk to this is one that you have to bring back to my remembrance. You said when the agent's ready, the ferry will come. What was it?
Yeah, when the agent is ready, the ferry will appear. Okay, well, when the agent is ready, John Harr will appear. I think the thing that's always, and maybe I should have been a driver instead of an amiable, because John Harr is a driver. He's a teddy bear. He's 6'6", but he's really a teddy bear. When he talks with power and certainty. And when he fires you with, you could have done it. I laid it all out. All you had to do was show up, and you didn't. Next. And he's not mean about it and hurtful about it. He's just next. He's okay. I always come from, oh my God, they're going to leave me. They're not going to like me anymore. Why don't they like me? If they liked me more, they would do the job. I can't stand this. I need to be a driver, and you need to be more coachable.
Yes. Neil, you make me feel like forcing you to tell me to record my prospecting or record my presentations and go over it with me. We did it
And
consistently every week for
you
2 or
did
3
for a while.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, you did
And,
for a while,
you
but
know,
not necessarily the prospecting. You did the presentation pretty religiously.
yes.
But the prospecting, what's happening out there is you're not hearing when the client says, I want to buy, or you're not hearing when the client says, I really have no interest in this. Why are you staying on the phone? Those are the, it's about pre-qualifying the client, but it's also about disqualifying the client and knowing which you're working on. Okay? Because we're spending too much time with clients we shouldn't be spending time on. I got to tell you guys on this subject, and I've talked to everybody that I could speak to about this. For the first time in my 50 years, I really heard the 333 rule. First time I really heard the 333 rule, because I'm prospecting, I'm talking to people, but I keep talking to the same people, and the same people don't want what I'm talking about. I got to stop that and move on to the next 10. Does that make sense to you guys? That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. We all do that. I
Yes.
heard it too. I mean, I hear it. I've heard it for years. It's, I came back and okay, getting rid of these leads that aren't really leads.
Right. Right. And then there's when people say, oh, I wrote this down earlier today. We were talking about this. I don't know if Tim's still here, but in the call we were doing a little earlier, it's we gotta get away from the greedy people and get with the, I don't want to say needy people, I want to say the have to people.
Motivated.
I have to sell. Those are the only people I want to talk to. And if I'm not talking to I have to sells, next. What else did we learn, you guys?
Well, he talking about the environment, Neil. The
So
environment,
Juan Carlos, speak up. I can barely hear you.
yeah, when he was talking about the environment, I think that was huge because he mentioned that was the main factor why some people doing it and why some other people don't. And it's like Ron Cronin asked the question, who wants to do 150 deals? Everybody raised up their hands. Say, he's willing to put the work that is gonna require to get 150 deals? Nobody, but a few people went out. So it changed a big thing, yeah.
So my friend, when do you plan on moving?
Yeah, that's a good question. I need to
Yeah,
check the
well,
environment.
we're gonna talk later because you gotta get some real estate under your belt, and I will drive you nuts to get more.
But talking about what you just say, Neil, you were saying I'm an amiable. I do all these things. I can relate 100% with you. I got the same personality, and one of the reasons I connect with my ferry because I say I want to be like that. I want to do those things. Like just go direct, yeah, to the things because I'm always like that too. I want to help people. I persist like 100 times. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I can go over, and that's me. That's the personality. Yeah.
We just have to keep finding the why.
Yes.
Why does Abigail own so many homes already?
Because she wants to.
It's part of how she keeps track of stuff, I guess. What else do we learn today? Armin, are you running to say something or are you just running? All right, anyone else want to share what they learned today?
No, I'm just running.
Good, don't trip, please. All right, everybody. By the way, I've gone to his office. I've talked to his agents. I talked to some of the single moms. I've talked to the people in that office that work in that office. None of this is bullshit. Okay? None of it. And I've gone there to try and figure out how I could duplicate that. And I think there's only one John Harr. But I want to get as close as I can to help you guys to learn the same things. Because some of you, not all of you, I get it, but some of you want to do that. So let's figure a way to get that done. Kelly, how you doing over there?
Good.
Good.
Are you talking to me in Virginia?
Yeah.
I'm great. Thanks
what
for
did
putting
you
me back on
learn?
this group.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. What did you learn today?
Well, I think the intensity, I don't think I've ever heard a managing broker after 30 years talk with that kind of intensity. My company out here is, has been a family-owned 12 offices, but they don't, there's very few of us that maybe 2 of us out of 700 agents that do Mike Ferry. So it's
pretty
a
lonely.
It can be. But the thing that's fascinating, I mean, he wasn't screwing around.
Nope. You're right. You're right.
And I think I get up early to go to the gym. And when he said 3 a.m., I was like, holy camole.
No, and he does this. Okay, he gets sick sometimes. Look, his dad was in and out of the hospital. They thought he was dying 5 times. 5 times he called me and said, I can't be to role play tomorrow. My father's going to die. Okay, sorry to hear that, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 weeks later, he's still there, right? It's like, it was crazy what was going on.
But our industry doesn't have very many people with that kind of passion, that commitment. There's no gimmick. He's written a guarantee. I tried to write some of it down, but
I'll get copies of it.
But it's just he's not screwing around. You can tell he's not screwing around.
Look, we've had conversations about this before. It's not hard to guarantee you'll make $100,000 if you do these items. The thing is to track that people do the items. Okay, that gets a little bit difficult when you're trying to manage a company with a couple hundred agents. Now our company has like 600 agents and it's like herding cats. So
but see, he keeps it lower.
Yes.
But everybody, it's the environment. Someone else on here mentioned
100%. 100%. It's the environment. And he does lose agents that are pulled away from him by the lure of bigger splits. Look, I'm doing 45, 50 deals. I want a bigger split than an 80-20. He says, go. And I mean, that's his thing. If you have that, if you have to have that, go. I'm not changing. And you know what? 3, 4, 5 years later, they're out of business because there's no accountability for the consistency. So that's just what happens to people.
It's a great interview after being with Mike Ferry for
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So it's a great interview for being with Mike Ferry for a week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Neil, that reminds me of a couple of times me and you went back and forth on a few agents that left your office, and you looked up their numbers, and their numbers were kind of diminished.
Almost in every case, there are a couple of exceptions, but almost in every case, every superstar that left Masters over the last 10 years is doing less business than they were at their peak with us. So, and that's because Neil has a reputation. If you go to work for Neil, you go to work. Isn't that a bitch? Abigail, isn't that horrible? Good job.
No, it's not.
When you go to work for Neil, you go to work. Well, what else are you supposed to do? All right. Okay. Anyone else have anything they want to share before we go back to prospecting?
Neil,
Yes.
I think he mentioned that we need to record our script practice and also the prospecting. I think it's very important, our tonality, our energy, because we can connect with the people. It's not like robotic. We need to be careful with what we say and how we say it as well.
100%. Absolutely. Great point. Absolutely. And we just have to keep doing it. And the neat part, the part that I am gratified with, is that even the superstars, while they may not, and I mean, talking about legend agents making a $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year, are still role playing 2 or 3 days a week. They might not be doing it 5 days a week, but they're role playing 2 or 3 days a week, and they're prospecting, and they're calling their past client sphere, or they're teaching people in the company, in their companies, how to prospect. I mean, this is something we have to do.
Yeah,
Have
he
to.
mentioned that when the people is in athletic or they practice any sport, they practice every day. I think it's something that I, as an agent, I need to do, or any agent needs to do.
I want to share a text I just got. So Milton James, the guy that did the role play yesterday, remember him? Okay, so Milton asked me to help him get rich, keep money, and how could he do better in real estate. So now that's Milton James, takes 100 listings a year. So my advice to Milton was to preview properties for 5 properties a day, 5 days a week. That was my original conversation, because he's still overpricing listings. So that is a problem. So he needs to do that. So he sends me a text 9 minutes ago, going to preview 4 properties for a listing appointment at 5 that I have today. There's a coachable guy, right?
Yeah.
And we're trying to find time to go preview property. You're killing me. You guys are killing me, some of you. All right. What else can I help you with today?